You're listening to KPFT Houston. We are 90.1 on your dial. If you're down in Galveston, pick us up at 89.5, and our friends up in the East Texas Piney Woods, 91.9. This is Songwriter Studio. I am your host, Tom Tranchilla, along with Lloyd Daniel behind the glass, as he does every week, doing a fine job. We love you, Lloyd, and thank you so much for carrying on this radio show as long as you have. I would like to announce to the listeners out there, KPFT has just purchased a new building. We will actually be live in the studio in the very near future. Big thanks to Sandy Wyman for taking care of all the business needed to get us into a new property, and that will be very soon. And thank all of the listeners that called in pledges during this most recent pledge drive, and we will keep you up to date on the new building. Without further ado, we are bringing in our guest, Bill Aspinwall. Bill, how you doing?
Doing fine, Tom. How about you?
I can't complain. It's nice and cool out. We got a little break from the heat here, and so glad that spring is here, and we're out of fund drive. So it's been a while. It's been 1 year since you've been on the show. And
it has been.
You have completed this record. Last time you were on the air, I think we were featuring a few tracks off of it, and you actually recorded most of it right here in Songwriter Studios. So
almost all the tracks, with except one that we recorded live. Lloyd recorded downtown on the Montrose area at a very well-known songwriting palace there, Anderson Fair.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we can't forget Anderson Fair, which is back up, running, live shows again. Thank goodness the COVID is backed off. So we're back watching live music again. Thank you so much, everybody, for opening your doors.
Yes, amen.
So we just discussed before the show, you recently, about 1 year ago, moved to Colorado. I know you had lived there most of your life, or at least quite a bit of your life, and you wanted to move from Houston back to Colorado. Why don't you let the listening audience know a little bit about how that transpired?
Well, sure. I originally was from Boulder, born in Boulder, went to Boulder High School, and then kind of spent 30, 40 years out in the world, including 20-some years in Houston. But when I retired, I just felt like I really wanted to get back home. I have family here, and matter of fact, my son just moved nearby. So Gail had been working on it for some time, my wife Gail, and we found a place in the small town of Loveland, which is just south of Fort Collins. And just a little over a year ago, we moved in. And we love it.
Yeah, well, at least you're in the cool weather up there compared to what we're dealing with down here on a daily basis. A longtime member of our friends, the Big Lizard Boys, and I know you'll still in the future be doing an occasional show with them, and a longtime member of the Hard Time Troubadours at J.P. Hop's house, and unfortunately, you had to leave some of that behind.
Yeah, it's always, I think that's the hardest part about moving, and I surely miss all of those wonderful people, Mike Darnell, Mike Crippen, Bob Yo, Keith Crake, Jeff Hooford, Richard Gaudette played bass, but David Hanshaw also played bass, and Brian Kalnick's there now, so great group, and I miss all of them.
All close friends, especially at Songwriter Studio. I love all those guys.
Yeah.
You know, you got your start, I wasn't aware of this, and around 1966, you came back from Mexico and purchased a guitar. Tell the listening audience a little bit about that.
Actually, it was my sister who was down studying as part of her university studies in Mexico, and she brought back this $10 classical guitar that, we all started on these things with string action where you could fit a phone book under the strings, but it would just turned out to be something I really enjoyed, and of course, playing guitar is usually more enjoyable than doing homework, so always found time to play, and have loved it ever since.
I think most of us that play guitar and have since we were kids, we feel the same way. Once you start playing, this is for me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to quit. You got a brand new record out. If we do too much talking, we're not going to get enough tracks on the air. And by the way, great album. I'd heard these tracks, at least several of them, prior to you releasing this brand new record, Best of My Days. And like you had mentioned, Lloyd did most of the engineering on mixing on this project.
He did.
Superb job. And I love this song. I've heard you do this first track live. I've heard the recording. I love the lyrics, the melody. Tell the listening audience a little history behind Dime's Worth of Wheat.
Well, it actually came from a conversation with a farmer in southwest Kansas. And I was kind of kidding him because at the time the price of wheat had gone up quite a bit. And I was telling him that he was probably spending more time driving to the bank than he was farming his fields. And he said, shoot, Bill, there's no more than a dime's worth of wheat in a loaf of bread. and I mean, the truth is the farmers don't get all the money that you pay for buying a loaf of bread in the store, but sounded like a song to me, and so that's where it came from.
It opened the door for the lyrics, that's for sure. My brother-in-law, Bill's a farmer, and I know how hard they work for the money they make. We love our farmers. Listen, let's go ahead and start out with track one. We're going to come back and do some more chatting. The name of the new album, Best of My Days. The name of track number one, Dime's Worth of Wheat. This is brand new music, Bill Aspinwall.
What you gonna do? Gotta listen to things you don't wanna hear. Brave the lightning bolts, a million zillion volts. Wait till the coast's clear. Are you gonna follow your heart or fight with your head? No more than a dime's worth of wheat in a loaf of bread. Living in our mind, lonely by design, never goes out of style. Lightning has been knowing these things for a great long while. Curiosity's a liability. The cat keeps a coming up dead. No more than a dime's worth of wheat in a loaf of bread. No more than a dime in a farmer's view, hardly worth the time to feed me and you. Are you gonna follow your heart or fight with your head? No more than a dime's worth of wheat in a loaf of bread. You can watch the sun rise all day, 1,000 miles an hour. You can even see any galaxy in the seeds of a flower. But you will never find the time you lost or hear what you never said. No more than a dime's worth of wheat in a loaf of bread. No more than a dime in a farmer's view, hardly worth the time to feed me and you. Are you gonna follow your heart or fight with your head? No more than a dime's worth of wheat in a loaf of bread. No more than a dime's worth of wheat in a loaf of bread.
Dime's Worth of Wheat. Brand new music, Bill Aspinwall off the new album, Best of My Days. Bill, great job. And was that a mandolin I heard in the background?
Close. It was a mandola.
A mandola. Tell the listening audience what a mandola actually is.
Well, it's the same relationship as a viola is to a violin. It's a larger and a 1/5 scale drop. So 5 whole notes lower than your typical mandolin tuning, but the same tuning intervals between the strings.
Great tone, and it records very well. The nice, crisp, clear tones, and you imagine would
thank you.
Thank you. Credit a lot of that to Lloyd, the engineer on this project. Let's talk a little bit about your beginnings with the Houston Songwriters Association. I heard Ken Gaines once quoted that you were one of the most underrated songwriters in the Houston area, and I know you, like a lot of us that met the Houston songwriters and folk singers and blues, all the acoustic, many of them passed through the Hops House's Houston Songwriters Association. You had a long time standing with them. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. I think I started going to those meetings around 2002, and that's where I met Mike Darnell, and it's where I met you, Tom, and Ken Gaines. And by the way, I mean, Ken Gaines is, I was sad to hear he's moving from Houston, but he has been instrumental in helping so many songwriters in Houston. I just can't thank him enough for all of the opportunities he provided and conversations we had about songwriting. But I was there when Gary Taylor was there. That's how I met Gary Taylor. Any number of the Houston songwriters, Bob Yo,
T.C. Smythe,
Willie B. Willie B. I met there. So, I mean, there's just so many fine Brian Kalanick, so many fine songwriters had been through that group. And it was just a great learning experience for me.
It was and is. They're still going strong, and Hops House is back opened up, and they're meeting again. So
good to hear.
Keep it going, right?
Yeah, amen.
Let's talk about track number 2 off the new record, Honeybee and Hollyhock. You know, I've always been impressed. I've told you this before about your knowledge of the neck, especially up the neck. You know more complex chords, ninths, sixteenths, you name it, you play it. And this song's no exception. You do a lot of up the neck melody work and chord work. Tell the listening audience a little bit about this song before we cue it up.
Well, it actually harkens back to my days growing up in Colorado. In the older towns, most of the older neighborhoods had alleys. And in the back alleys behind everybody's houses, there were during the summer, big stands of hollyhock flowers. And, you know, as a kid with curiosity, you're seeing a bee that's trapped inside this bell-shaped flower, and you're kind of wondering, well, maybe I can catch a bee. And then you find out it's not such a great idea. One sting later, you're pretty much cured of that approach. But that's kind of the start of the idea, but I think it grew from there. So
let's play track number 2, the brand new album, Best of My Days. This is Bill Aspinwall. The name of this track, Honeybee and Hollyhock.
Blossoms crowd the air, pollen buzzing everywhere. Wrapped in scarlet silk, trapped against the stalk. Honeybee and hollyhock. The stinger comes out, bee goes down. The last winged beat won't make a sound. Dying to be free is more than idle talk. Honeybee and hollyhock. Guns and flowers gather round. Shallow grave on hollowed ground. There's always one more truth waiting to be found. Half the moon holds a hidden clue. Must be a million souls cast in every rock. Honeybee and hollyhock, guns and flowers gathered round. Shallow grave on hollowed ground. There's always one more truth just waiting to be found.
Honeybee and Hollyhock. Great song. It's almost haunting. The effects you used on the guitar, especially the lead part, you were up the neck, and the use of the harmonics, just beautiful.
Well, thanks, Tom. It actually, the guitar was strung what they call Nashville style, which means you take the higher set of strings from a 12-string, a set of 12 strings, the higher pitched, and then use those as the 6 strings for a regular electric guitar, and it gives you an interesting, different note relationship, and so it worked well with this song, I think.
Well, listening to it, I was trying to figure that out. What's he got going? How's he getting these high tones? And it's very very unusual.
Thank you.
We're going to jump into track 4 right now, Language of Yes. And I remember listening to this when you were recording it. I actually was up here for one of the sessions. And I believe back then you brought in Leslie Krafka-Waugh. Isn't that true? And
yes.
I think Kelly Hanshaw ended up coming in and laying down some harmony tracks.
Well, actually, Kelly did that work at home with David. They have a recording setup at their house. So Lloyd was kind enough to send them the sort of backing tracks to work from, and then they sent back her vocal tracks, and we were able to blend everything in. And, the Hanshaws do such fantastic work. It's just wonderful stuff being able to work with them.
They're both stellar musicians and singers.
Yeah.
And before we get any further, it just dawned on me that we all are so familiar with the Hops House. We lost Judy Mood recently.
Oh.
Not only, well, I would have to say she was the number one fan for 20 years that I know of, that always sat, her and Rob, right there in the center table, and the biggest cheerer in the entire audience. Of course, her famous quote was, "Yay," every time a song ended.
Yes. Oh, she was both of them, Rob and Judy, just wonderful. And Rob, I still hear a little bit from him via email.
Your family, Rob, is in our thoughts and prayers. We loved and love Current, your wife, Judy. She's just a wonderful, wonderful person, and she's in our thoughts and prayers.
Absolutely.
And we will move on and go ahead and play that next track we were just discussing, Language of Yes. Brand new music, Bill Aspinwall off the Best of My Days.
You make me some kind of happy, more than I thought was possible. You just make it look easy. Just comes out natural with this spell I'm under. I don't have to wonder why. We just learning to say yes. Talking about yes. Well, it was every kind of crazy. I was raising up a white flag till you came into my view. Now you is the one that makes my tail wag. Used to be just 7 wonders, now there's 700. Why? We just learning to say yes. Talking about yes. It's the feeling that we get
when everything just fits. All of our words add up to this, the language of yes.
Well, you just all kind of lovely, and it seems unbelievable how a brown bag of lunch like me could be sitting at your table. Let's take a great big bite with this
newfound appetite, darling.
We're just learning to say.
We're just learning to say. We're just learning to say yes. Talking now, yes.
Come on.
Language of Yes, brand new music, Bill Aspinwall with a little help from Leslie Kraft-Waugh and Kelly Hanshaw. Great song. I love the jazz chords. You're always so good adding the jazz touches in your song, Bill.
Well, thanks, Tom. It also features Mike Darnell on bongos and Richard Gaudette on the bass.
There you go. You got Lizard Boy and
Yeah.
Troubadours.
I just love Richard's work on the bass on that song. It really added something to it. So I'm
not only is Richard a great bass player, he's an excellent songwriter.
Yeah. He's just a multi-talented guy. He helped design the artwork for the record cover and did a great job, and he's just a unique individual.
Yeah, I was looking at the inserts in the cover that Lloyd had printed out for me prior to the show. These are great photos. I love the cover photo. You had told me this was taken in Paris. Why don't you expand on this a little bit?
Yeah, well, once upon a time, Gail lived in Paris and had the opportunity to make a number of trips there. This, I think, was a trip in about 2015, and those are the steps that feature in a Woody Allen movie. And so it was just by coincidence we happened to stumble upon it, and she wanted to take a picture, and it ended up on the cover, so it's great.
I'm surprised you actually recognized the building. That's pretty surprising.
Well, Gail knows a lot about Paris, so she knew about it already. So
well, yeah, there you go. Having lived there, she would know that.
Yeah, I had a tour guide.
You know, the next couple of tracks we are playing that are actually run together on the album, Purple, Green, and Gold and Evening Train. And I like how you meshed these together and ran one right into the other one. Of course, this features Mike Crippen, and it's actually the second part of this, Evening Train, is written by Mike Crippen. Why don't you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, this was a song Mike wrote just as we were kind of finishing up we ended up calling ourselves the Big Lizard Band after we added Lisa Canada as a vocalist.
And she can sing too, by the way.
Oh, she's a wonderful singer. My goodness. So it was a song, and we had just started working on it. And then as bands happen, they all have a shelf life, and we all kind of moved on. But I had always really loved the lyrics. Mike's just another creative genius as far as I'm concerned. And so I thought, well, we'll see what we can come up with in the studio. And it's actually his slide work and some of the special effects in Purple, Green, and Gold, and then, which is a song I wrote, but then we've blended that into Evening Train. It's just amazing what he comes up with sometimes. And so that's been a wonderful experience.
I've always loved Mike's writing, especially Mean Joe Turner, which I consider the essential song of the Big Lizard Boys repertoire.
Yeah, I've played that in so many different circumstances, and it always gets a great reaction from a crowd. So it's just a wonderful song. Sure.
Every songwriter I know just about has one signature song that everybody recognizes and everybody knows, or they'll point out, oh, that's my favorite song by such and such. Mike Crippen, Mean Joe Turner.
Yeah,
let's listen
amen.
Oh, we love you, Mike. Thanks. Hope you're listening to the show. Let's listen to these two tracks right now, Purple, Green, and Gold, followed up by Evening Train. This is brand new music, Bill Aspinwall.
Wisteria's hanging like grapes on a vine. Pine pollen's falling like some kind of crazy green moonshine. In the first heat of April, the jasmine explodes. Purple, green, and gold. Got your muscadine and your mayhaw, your blackberry to behold. Some likes their okra fried, some likes it in the gumbo. I had beignets for breakfast, waiting for my beer to be cold. Purple, green, and gold. Purple, green, and gold, the colors of a Creole spring. We're having that baby bean in the breakfast cake of a Cajun king. Purple, green, and gold, we got lanyard in our blood, we got jazz in our soul. Purple, green, and gold. 900 souls shuffled on above the avenue Ursuline. Hurricane came and left only mud, mold, and gangrene. Couldn't raise enough money for the levee control. purple, green, and gold. Purple, green, and gold. I can't make a living selling opium to the undertaker's daughter. I can't make a living selling rice to the preacher and his wife. Can't make the ends meet on my overcoat. My glasses don't work so well. It's been a bloody road from Springfield, a journey straight from hell. Now the messenger has made it clear we've really done our best. The spirit world makes up the void, and we make up the rest. I can make a living selling dragonflies to the little girls down in Texas. Can make a living selling grain to the miller and his son. Now whistle Dixie, whistle mama, whistle while you work. Whistle past the graveyard, baby. Whistle till it hurts.
Purple, Green, and Gold, followed up by Evening Train. That bass work close to the end of Evening Train was, I'm assuming it was the runs up and down what sounded like a bass.
Well, actually, it was on a guitar with an organ effect.
That was really, really creative.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's like a little black box, guitar pedal effect that converts your guitar signal into an organ sound. And in this case, it'll also flip it an octave down. So we're just having fun. But it seemed to fit.
The great Stephen King, not the novelist, but the guitarist, incredible fingerstyle player, plays what he calls a walking bass. And he tunes he octaves down his low E, and he uses it as a not alternating bass, but a walking bass in all of his songs, giving it the effect of two full guitars playing, and he's a master at it. Those
Wow.
listeners who have not heard Stephen King, the musician, Google him, check out some of his YouTubes. I'm sure you'll buy his records when you do. Our guest, again, Bill Aspinwall, featuring songs off of his Best of My Days album. And we've got the next track queued up right now, which is the title track, Best of My Days. Bill, give the listening audience a little heads up on this track.
Oh, for some long period of time, I was in a marriage that didn't work very well and managed to work around that, move on, and then happened to find a woman that just changed my life around. So this is a song really for her. It's just one of those things that sometimes you're fortunate enough in life to find a partner who's just makes a big difference in your life, and I'm lucky enough to have had that experience. So that's what the song's about.
The title track, the brand new album by Bill Aspinwall, Best of My Days. This is Best of My Days.
The sky and the morning star dissolves in the light. With you by my side, I promise you this: I'll treasure to the end your sweet loving kiss. I was introduced to love, yeah, from the moment our lips met. Such pleasures memories are made of, yeah. If there's a finer feeling, haven't felt it yet. And so I'm keeping in my heart the times I best remember. You've been there all along in so many ways. You helped me through when I was ready to surrender. You made the best of my days. Even as the sun falls from the sky and the ivory moon is rising on high, I remember this, your smile like the sun, the sparkle in your eyes as your dress came undone. I was introduced to love from the moment our lips met. Such pleasures memories are made of, yeah. If there's a finer feeling, haven't felt it yet. And so I'm keeping in my heart the times I best remember. You've been there all along in so many ways. You helped me through when I was ready to surrender. You made the best of my days.
The title track from the hopeless romantic himself, Bill Aspinwall, little nod to his wife. What a beautiful song, an incredible fingerstyle work, great harmonics, and not dressed up. You kept this simple, stripped down, guitar, vocals. It's all it needed. You know, sometimes the best songs are those that embellish only what is needed, which is perfect case of this particular track.
Well, thank you, Tom. Lloyd and I worked, I would say Lloyd worked very patiently. We were trying to do as many of these songs in a single take as we could, because sometimes, some musicians can be very consistent, but I might not fit that category all the time. So we would, work around a few things, trying to find the right guitar sound, the right, vocal mic. But then really, because this project took a long time, and we didn't work on it full time. I only worked on it when I could. But we really were looking for just a single magic take for each song. And I think we managed to do that for almost all of them. So that's all to Lloyd's credit in figuring out the best way to present these things.
And also, when you're recording like this, click tracks typically do not work.
I've used them and I don't like them. So we didn't use one for any of these songs, but I understand why people do it, and it does keep things very tight, but it's not a sound that I prefer.
One of the big disadvantages of the click track, it takes the emotion out of the music. I've been a firm believer, and Buddy and I do this. We change tempos purposely throughout a song, speed it up, and our syncopation. All that is distorted when the click track comes into play. And then if you want to bring in other musicians to play a part, the click track is the only way to do it. But again, it takes the emotion out of the song. So I credit you for that, keeping everything live.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Let's talk a little bit about Yesterday's Coffee. This is a beautiful ballad. I understand it's about past friendships. Why don't you talk about this a little bit?
Yeah. Well, for almost 10 years, 9 years, I did a annual concert up here in Colorado for a friend of mine who is heavily involved in AIDS research. And every year, and Mike Darnell came along a couple times. Lloyd actually played bass for us one year. I put a band together and we did a benefit concert at a venue here in Colorado called Nieces. And quite a few of my old Colorado friends would show up to support this benefit concert. And again, Gail suggested, well, why don't you write a song for your friends? And so that's how it kind of got started. I had the music and I was kind of struggling with lyrics, and her suggestion kind of turned around the direction of the song, and that's how it came into being.
Excellent song. Off the brand new album, Best of My Days, this is Bill Aspinwall, Yesterday's Coffee.
Caffeine, old dreams, and cheap alcohol, stumbling through Monday behind the 8-ball. This guitar had some promise, but I played it instead like yesterday's coffee, an old crust of bread. Not yet sunset, there's still light in the skies. Time's rolling faster, that's when you realize. Got to grab every minute like it's the last one you'll find. Talking about my old friends, still on my mind. I was stuck in a deep old track. I found some new footing, made my way back. My friends kept the fire, and I found the flame, 'cause the love in our hearts still the same. We followed our own trails, clambered up those canyon sides, hanging on to comet tails. Though there's miles between us, feels like nothing's changed, 'cause the love in our hearts still the same. Seasons, reasons, all these things we've gone through, timberlines and columbines still remind me of you. These moments together make the best kind of time, talking about my old friends still on my mind. Yeah, talking about my old friends, you're still on my mind. You're still on my mind. Ooh.
Bill, smooth as silk, Aspinwall. Yesterday's Coffee, what a great song, and your use of jazz chords is just stellar.
Thanks, Tom.
You know, it's very difficult for people like me to play soft and smooth and slow.
You have your own special talents in finger picking and just keeping up with Buddy, I'm sure. So it's always a joy getting to hear you play, because you've got your own sort of unique style that just sounds great always.
I wish I had the ability to play so soft and slow and melodic, and you certainly have that talent, Bill. My compliments.
Well, thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
Our guest today, Bill Aspinwall. We're featuring songs off Best of My Days. Excellent album. Bill, do you have a website set up, or is there a place that the listening audience can go to order copies of the new album?
Yeah, there is. The new album is loaded up on the Bandcamp platform, and all they have to do is search for my name, Bill Aspinwall. And Bandcamp serves as a platform for literally thousands of independent artists, but it's a very friendly experience, and you can order individual tracks or you can order the whole project.
I guess they would be downloading the MP3s.
Yes, this is it's all digital downloads. I will have physical product in another couple weeks, working with a company in Portland called Atomic Discs, and they've been wonderful. So there will be CDs available for those people who still have a CD player. They're getting rarer and rarer, but digital downloads are available on Bandcamp.
You know, I was just going to talk about that, the hard copies. Most of us that have been around a while that have released our music in the past, originally, of course, it was vinyl LPs, which have made a huge comeback. One of our guests recently on the show, Andrew Salgado, actually has a vinyl copy available along with his downloads and CDs. But as you mentioned, the hard copies are getting rarer. But people, it seems like, of the older generation who still want the material product in their hand. Here at Songwriter Studio, we require the hard copy because of the liner notes.
Yeah.
Some of us that have been purchasing music for, let's just say, decades, we like to read the liner notes, see what the music's about, see who the engineer is, who mixed and mastered, where was it recorded.
The digital world is a different place altogether. So
times, they are changing.
Yeah.
Bill Aspinwall's been our guest on Songwriter Studio. He had mentioned how to pick up a copy. Now, do you still run an active schedule And do you plan on coming to Texas anytime in the near future, possibly to promote the new record? Will you be playing any local Houston venues?
I don't have any plans right now. Things are still a little bit less than entirely dependable. I have started working with two different musical groups here in Colorado. One is called Lucky Break, and we have a gig this Saturday at a private party. And then I have another gig tomorrow at a sandwich shop in Fort Collins with another group that's called the Wild Elderberries, and with the which we do all original music in the Wild Elderberries. And with that group, we are trying to put together maybe sort of a radio station tour in probably late July or August, depending on everyone's schedule and radio stations we can get lined up. So it might be something that would work out at that point in time, but nothing definitive just yet, Tom.
I do want to mention you recently had an agreement made with John in Houston, local artist relations person here and promotions manager. Tell us how that relationship came about.
Well, actually, it came about through Lloyd Daniel and KPFT. I think you had an interview with John recently, and Lloyd suggested maybe checking him out, and we've been working with John in the last couple of weeks and hope to be able to get some effective promotion on the album and possibly lining up other opportunities in performance. So we just started on that, and we're just working on some draft material as we speak.
You know, John in Houston is well connected, not only here in the States, but all over Europe. He's got radio stations, radio promotion people. His promotion list is in the thousands now, so you're in good hands with John in Houston. John, we thank you for the artists you've brought to our attention and some of the great recordings you've brought to us for on air. I'd like to thank Lloyd Daniel for doing what he does every week. We love you, and we certainly couldn't do this show without you. Bill, thanks for spending 1 hour with Songwriter Studio. We really appreciate it. Looking forward to you. I know you'll be stopping in at the Hops House when you do come into town, and let us know, and we will be promoting it on this show. Please, listening audience, stick around. Up next, we have Irish Airs, followed by the Bluegrass Depot. Also coming up, one of my favorite house concert venues that moved their house concert series down to Galveston, the Johnsons. Pam and Jim, they're bringing in several great songwriters. Our very own Brian Kalanick will be there July 9th. We talked about Brian earlier in the show. Go ahead and Google the Johnson Studio House Concert Series, and you can get a hold of Pam and Jim. And we are going out with the last track off the new album, Life Makes Its Own Corrections. Why don't you let the listening audience know a little bit about this track before we say goodbye?
Well, it was actually inspired by a novel written by an English woman who's well known in England, Penelope Fitzgerald. And the title actually came from a line in the book, one of the characters. It takes place in Moscow prior to the revolution in early 1917-ish. I'm not sure about that date, but anyway, prior to the revolution. And the main character was a person who was running a printing operation in Moscow, and merriment ensues. But it was a line from one of the characters, and it just seemed to fit a lot of circumstances.
At current times, especially.
Yeah, exactly.
Notwithstanding.
Exactly.
Thanks again for being our guest on Songwriter Studio. We will see you next week. This is brand new music by Bill Aspinwall. The name of the new album, Best of My Days. Let's go out with Life Makes Its Own Corrections. Until next week.
Thanks, Tom.
We'll see you. Thanks again, Bill.
You bet. Thank you.
He was a victim of a happy childhood. His family was so cheerful it was grim. So many brilliant prospects made the future look dim. But these contradictions seem to agree with him. And she could carry the weight of the world like it was a tiny hummingbird. Didn't believe in weapons, she believed in words. Laughter's a medicine, all too frequently unheard. Life makes its own correction. You'll get busted just trying to save the day. May as well stand on your perfection. So when the curtain comes down, we all get carried away. Like some of these old jokes we all know, the story gets better every time that it's told. Between intuition imagination, we might be guessing, but the questions never get old. Life makes its own correction. You'll get busted just trying to save the day. May as well stand on your perfection. Curtain comes down, we all get carried away.